Early this morning when I was walking my dog Baruch on the trail, and he was stopping all the time and lying down occasionally and rolling over occasionally and desperately trying to chase rabbits often, I was thinking to myself, what actually is he seeing and smelling that I cannot see and smell? And some of it, I'm sure, is gross. And some of it is probably magnificent, really. And I often, as I'm sure those of you who have dogs can relate to, get impatient and want to drag him out of whatever he's in. And I find myself, especially when I'm walking on Shabbat, you know, like Rav Jacob said last week, I don't really have it. Well, I do have somewhere to go. I have here to come to, obviously. But it was pretty early this morning, so I was thinking, like, you know what? I'm just going to let him be wherever he needs to be right now. And then I found myself wondering and thinking about the extraordinary world of the senses of animals. And it reminded me of this book which I picked off my shelf, which is called An Immense World by Ed Young, which is an incredible, incredible book. The subtitle is How Animal Senses Reveal the Hidden Realms Around Us. And there's a few pieces of it that just really stand out to me, it's a very scientific book, and I'm a very unscientific person. But just the ways in which he builds these pictures of the sensory experience of animals and how different it is to ours and how different it is among different species, right? But he talks about the sense of sight and the sense of smell being very interconnected, and that's certainly true for dogs. They're catching a scent, and then they're seeing what they're catching the scent of, and this whole thing is kind of happening simultaneously. But he also connects it to light, and there's this quote here. He says, "We see by smelling light. We see by smelling light." Just get your head around that for a little bit. And then in the next chapter, which is really, the chapter is called Endless Ways of Seeing. He says, vision can extend in any direction and every direction. It can envelop and surround, and it can vary in time as well as space. It can fill not just empty voids around us, but also the fleeting gaps between moments. There's something so powerful about vision and sight. And of course I'm going to relate it to this parsha, but before I do, I want to relate it to one of the amazing brachot that we say in the morning as part of the Birkot HaShachar. Because part of the Birkot HaShachar, which is these blessings that are defined in the Talmud for how we mindfully wake up, as we go through the process of waking up. And when we open our eyes, says the Talmud, we say, blessed are you, God, Pokeach Ivrim. Pokeach Ivrim, who gives sight to the blind, who opens the eyes of the blind. But what's really interesting is that verb, it's not opening in a surface way. It's not just opening. It's not liftoach. It's pokeach, which is very different. Poteach would be to open the eyes, and poteach would just be, I'm opening my eyes. But pokeach is really about not just opening my eyes, but opening my sense of perception and opening me to a deeper way of seeing and opening the ways in which I see on the inside as well as on the outside, and the way I see beyond what is actually available to see with my gift of eyesight. And I think that's really important and powerful, and it definitely relates to that poor she-donkey. I wish they'd given her a name in the parsha. She deserves a name, doesn't she? But can you imagine that story is, and as Rav Jacob said, it could be a whole sort of comic episode in the Torah. But there's something, good comedy always has very, very powerful and important lessons for us. You imagine this, and Davash. we talked a lot about Davash, but this powerful midrash that compares Abraham to Bilam. How? Because they both get up early and saddle their donkey, right? And the Midrash, if you studied it, you can see it right there, is basically saying that each of them were powerful enough that they had people who would do those tasks for them. So why are they doing it themselves? They're doing it themselves because they're really extra motivated to go on this journey. And Avraham is motivated by Ahava, and Bilam is motivated by Sinah. Avraham is motivated by love of God, and Bilam is motivated by hatred of the Jewish people. He does want to try and find a way that he can curse the Jewish people. That's according to that Midrash, right? But it's like they're both in this process of going on this journey. And here's Bilam riding on this donkey that he's had for years and years and years, has been totally faithful to him. And the donkey, like my dog this morning, just stops or goes a different way or takes Bilam in a different direction. And he hits it 3 times until God opens the donkey's mouth. And the donkey says, "What are you doing? What have I done to deserve this?" And then eventually there's an opening of eyes, of Bilam's eyes. Not pokeach, by the way, but patach. Opens. Bilam's eyes are opened. And he sees what that beautiful donkey had seen all along, which is the fact that there's an angel with a sword standing in the way saying, "Where do you think you're going? And what are you trying to do?" And there's something about that. The power of what that animal is teaching us. And the way in which that animal's presence. And who knows? Those of us who have dogs, maybe they're seeing angels when they get diverted and we think they just want to chase a rabbit. Maybe they're actually seeing angels. Maybe they're seeing, not maybe, they're definitely seeing things that we can't see, but what is it that they're actually seeing? And what are they actually there to be able to teach us? Beyond just the physical sight, if they're seeing something in an expanded and beautiful way. And so it just seems that one of the lessons of this parsha, and there are many, is just about, and Anisha was alluding to this I think earlier, it's just like, how many times do we set off on some kind of ridiculous journey in a way where our eyes are just not seeing the fullness of what we could actually see? How many times are we just not hearing instructions about what we could actually be doing to better serve ourselves and to better serve the world around us, right? Rabbi Shefa Gold has such a beautiful idea about this. She says we are challenged to receive God's voice in the sound of this world, in the voice of a friend, an animal, the wind, or the body that has been carrying us so loyally all these years. We are challenged to wake up to whatever has been occurring below our range of awareness, whatever we have dismissed as unworthy or undeserving of our attention. It is there that the word of God must be discerned. The word of God. I don't know what the word of God is, but I feel like the word of God is something that is inviting us to authenticity, inviting us to serve in the way that we are called to serve. In our Shabbat davening, it says, "V'taheh libeinu le'ovdecha be'emet," right? Purify our hearts so that we can serve you be'emet, in truth. Bilam was not serving in truth. He was getting carried along on a lie, and it was a she-ass that opened his eyes to the truth. And we can find the truth in so many subtle ways. And the natural world, I think, for many of us is such an important part of that. We can learn so much from animals and from trees and from birds and from mountains and just our natural landscape that can help us open our eyes to a much, much, much bigger vision than what we see and what we get fixated on in ways that are just not helpful and not productive. And I want to connect it a little bit to the 3 weeks, because on Tuesday it is the 17th of Tammuz, Shvar Shei B'Tammuz, which is a fast day, and it begins the 3-week period that culminates with Tisha B'Av, when we commemorate the destruction of the first and second temple, and lots of other tragic events throughout Jewish history. The 17th of Tammuz has mapped onto it two very important historical occurrences. One is, it is considered the day where Moshe actually broke the tablets when he came down and saw the people worshipping the golden calf. And the other is that it is where the temple, the walls of the city of Jerusalem were breached before the destruction took place 3 weeks later. And those two events, which are about destruction, are also about possibility in a way. And we know that the rabbis say that the ultimate force that destroyed the temple was not the Romans, it wasn't the Babylonians. Babylonians destroyed the first temple, the Romans destroyed the second temple. It was really this quality of sinat chinam, which is the quality of causeless hatred between us, that is the ultimate energy that caused the eventual destruction. And I feel that's connected to me because if we are really taking seriously that midrash that compares the path of Abraham and the path of Bilam, one who's motivated by hatred and one who's motivated by love, how does that inform us as we enter into this 3-week period, right? First of all, the lesson of Bilam is teaching us to really expand our awareness through our senses and beyond, to really open our eyes to, when we say in the morning, Pokeach Ivrim, to really open our eyes not just to what we see physically, but to insight, to perception, to being able to really see another for who they are and for their pain that they're carrying, and to be able to hold them in our hearts. To be guided not by sinat chinam, but by ahavat chinam, not by causeless hatred, but by causeless love, which is what Harav Kook, the first chief rabbi of Palestine, said was the only antidote. The only antidote to sinat chinam, to causeless hatred, is to causeless love. To find the people that irritate us, and we all have people who irritate us, just finding a reason to love them rather than hate them. That's where the work begins, and to look inside ourselves with the same open eyes that Bilam eventually had once that donkey allowed him to open his eyes and to see the gifts and the beauty. Rabbi Nachman, one of my favorite teachings of Rabbi Nachman is he talks about Shabbos eyes. He says that on Shabbat we see the world differently. We see during the week, in our haste, and perhaps that's, us walking dog in the week time, in the daytime, where we're checking text messages and trying to walk the dog, and we're on a very limited time frame, and it's like, oh gosh, it's already cool. But on Shabbos, it's like we're in a more expanded world. We have this neshama yetera, we have this additional soul. And if we have this additional soul, which is really just a more conscious and a more expanded version of ourselves, it affects the way we perceive the world. So I think that's what Rabbi Nachman sees. He says we see the world with Shabbos eyes. We look at ourselves with Shabbos eyes. We look at each other with Shabbos eyes, with a sense of generosity and love and kindness. Hakarat hatov, like seeing the good, not looking for all the flaws and the faults. And God knows the world, whether we're looking at the political drama and nightmares that are unfolding in this country, or what's going on in Israel. It's just so easy to see just the awfulness and the hopelessness of it all. And so if we, like Bilam, can somehow have our eyes open so that we can see the angels, and that we can see each other, and we can see the people that we perceive to be our enemies with that sense of love and possibility and openness, and hearing that divine voice, whatever that might sound like and whatever that might look like, in the most unexpected times and places, and allowing the natural world to help us come closer to that. Being outside is such a healing balm for us during these times. So I've kind of fallen in love with that donkey this week, There's something so precious about it, and so tragic. Like I said earlier, just the fact that it seems that the donkey dies. I mean, does the donkey die because Bilam hit the donkey 3 times? Does the donkey die from its wounds, or is its job in the world complete? Maybe the donkey is in fact an angel, and the angel, angels in Jewish tradition only have one tafkid, one task, and maybe its task was to finally get Bilam to open his eyes. I don't know. But it seems to me that the invitation of the Parsha is for us to see ourselves like Bilam and to recognize the ways in which we go off on these ridiculous missions sometimes, and we go down roads that have got dead ends, and that we can allow our eyes to be opened to the depth and the beauty and the power of this world, and somehow transcend the horrors of it, and transcend it through ahava, through love, and through generously scattering seeds of love throughout the world with open eyes and open hearts and open minds and open hands. I'll finish by just quoting. Who do you think I'm going to finish by quoting? Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who says at the end of a very powerful essay on this parsha that he's quoted a really beautiful piece from Maimonides, from Rambam, and he says, "I believe that if we follow the Rambam in saying that all God's acts have a moral message for us, God is teaching us that love can turn curses into blessings. It is the only force capable of defeating hate. Love heals the wounds of the world." Love and open eyes. Shabbat shalom.